Hello and welcome. I'm your host Elizibar. We are going to talk about some news here, comic book news about Diamond. It's not really just about Diamond. It's to kind of try to provide some context. I've seen a lot of people talking about this stuff on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, all sorts of places, and I feel like you don't understand how an industry gets itself into this particular situation. So you've got Diamond, and we're going to just kind of neglect right now a little bit of the history, but we'll come back to it. And Diamond's like, yo, there's some bad stuff happening, and we cannot meet our financial obligations and stay in business. Also, this is a great big BARDA, it looks like, from Jim Lee right there. Charity auction. I sure hope that charity money is going somewhere cool. We are no longer receiving consistent payment from our customers, and as a result, they will hold payments to vendors previously scheduled to release this week. Okay. Well, that sounds kind of bad, right? Well, it gets worse. So this is a tweet from Peter Samedi. I'm presenting. So one thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show you what people say, and then I'm going to show you like the primary source. So you could go over here to Bleeding Cool, who doesn't show you the primary source, at least not in the article itself, or you can come to Peter Samedi, who does show it to you. So Peter's like, yo, we got to hunker down for 5 months till payments are received in full. And sure enough, if you read this, beginning this week, the week of April 6th, you receive a quarter of your weekly amount due under your contract terms. Each week after, you receive a quarter of that week's balance. This will continue for 6 weeks, with the remaining 75% due in each of those weeks being deferred. Following that 6-week period, we'll begin payment of the deferred balance in equal payments over a 13-week period. I sure hope their contract lets them do this, because this doesn't seem like straight up, like above board. We've gotten deferred payments from rent. We've got other providers of services to defer their payments. We're taking a 50% salary cut. I guess that's good for them. Their leadership team is probably rich enough that they don't need that, but whatever. Like, that's at least a good faith gesture that we're not just robbing you type stuff. So it's bad. And he said 5 months. Let's check that too. Let's fact check here. So let's see, 6 weeks, maybe 7, depending on if this is counting this week or not, and a 13-week period here. That's 19 weeks, maybe 20. So that's definitely 4.5 to 5 months. So yeah, he's spot on. I don't know how a company, if Diamond can't survive for 5 months, like without no money coming in, how they expect other companies to do that. But I guess they do. Also, don't go to Bleeding Cool. You just get spyware. Don't do it, not even once. So here, they're not the only industry. Like, printing as a whole is having the same kind of problem. So Beth Meacham here, she works in the printing industry, and she talks about this kind of stuff. Most of the paper is manufactured in China. Guess what isn't coming from China? Anything. Some of it comes from Canada. This is pretty good. She talks about stores are closed, warehousing, da 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 da. Amazon isn't ordering that many. We'll come back to that. We're gonna look at this. So she's talking about books. I'm gonna try to write nice and big for you. You got books, and these are physical ones. And down here we'll put digital. How do you like that? So now for books and digital, you have different inputs that you need. Now some of these are going to be the same, some are going to be different. You need art, you need words. We're going to just kind of focus on comic books here. Problem in comic books is it's almost all this and very little of this. I've never seen numbers that say this is a significant contributor. Beth Meacham in her article, or her thing there, she's like, we sell a lot of books and we sell a lot of books on tape. We don't sell a lot of digital copies. And if you've ever looked at like the prices of ebooks, you can see why you're paying $20 for the digital copy, because they don't want you to buy that for a lot cheaper than the hardback. So try not to cannibalize their own business. Never minding that the people that buy hardback books are different from the people that buy ebooks. Just like here, the people that buy floppies are different from the people. Oh, in fact, let's just do that. Floppies, trades. Oh, let's just throw in hardcovers too, and hardcovers. So these are all somewhat different markets. There's a lot of overlap, but there are people who will buy trades who don't buy floppies. They just want the complete story. There are people like me who buy floppies that don't really buy trades, but I will buy hardcovers. And sometimes I buy trades if it's a series I really like and I want to really show my support, like Scrimshaw, for example. So there's like these 3 sets of customers in this group. Digital, well, there's really only one product they offer, the ebook. You don't get something you can hold in your hand. You have to look at it on your phone, and it's whatever. Now, both of these products up here require that stuff. You also need electricity, and therefore you need like petrochemical or other kind of stuff to go in, like at the very level of infrastructure for society. But at a high level, that's what you need to make those things. Now, of course, physical also has a problem. You need ink, you need paper, you're also going to need like staples and stuff. We're not going to include all that, and that goes and feeds into this. So right there. I guess I should have drawn like more arrows over here. Just there we go. We got arrows everywhere. We're making a mess of this piece of paper. So that's what you need. Now the problem, ink and paper, where do they come from? Well, as Beth Meacham says, a lot of that stuff comes from one place. I guess I maybe drew the arrow the wrong way. We'll just make it bidirectional. There you go. A lot of that stuff comes from one place. Now, there's a million firms over there that will make this stuff for you, but it all comes from here. And so when you want it at your printer, so we'll draw a little box there. Guess what? That means it's got to come from here, because it doesn't magically come out of nowhere. It doesn't just exist. The stuff has to be made, and most of it's made from here. Now, from your printer, you send it either to yourself or to your distributor. So we'll say distro or pub. And the publisher can send it to the distributor. And then it goes out to stores. That's how this kind of supply chain works. And this is very simplified. Some businesses have a lot more complicated supply chains than this, but in highlight, this is a very basic idea of what the supply chain looks like. The same kind of rule goes for things like electronics. It goes for CDs, plastics, raw metals, finished goods. This plastic BCW sleeve is probably made with like plastics that came from China or something. Like, I think that's BCW. No, this is Ultra Pro. Actually, I take it back. I don't know where this stuff's manufactured, but I know like BCW will ship it from Indiana, but whether they actually have the molds, the injection molds and stuff there, I don't know. That's something to look at. But the petrochemicals they use might have come from China. They might have been refined in Texas too. This random note card that's purple on my desk, probably made in China or made from Chinese paper. Like, that's just how it is. This Staples notepad right here, I sure don't see a made in USA on the front, and I don't see one on the back, so that leads me to conclude this was just shipped from China. This cheap pen, I don't know for sure where Bic makes stuff, but there's a pretty good chance it came from China. Now, at some level, there's not a problem with that, but if you get more specific, so instead of printer, let me just scribble this out. Or actually, I don't want to scribble out the printer. I'm sorry, I just made a mess of this. We will come back here. So we've got ink, paper, China. Put some circles like this, and we'll feed arrows down like that. Okay? We'll make him like a little happy kind of guy. He's like, yeah. That looks weird, doesn't it? Let's just forget I did any of that. All right, so we got a arrow that points down. And we get here to the printer. And now, since this is comic books, we're going to leave the publisher out here. There's only one distributor. Diamond. So we have two single points of failure. If China is taken out, none of this stuff down here matters. If Diamond is taken out, all the stuff down here doesn't matter. You can't get the books to the people. That kind of stinks. If you were trying to sell things to people, you got to be able to move your product. You got to get it into their hands. So that leaves you back with, with one choice. Digital. Now there's more digital marketplaces out there than there are distributors of physical goods. Being digital is weird because you're kind of a publisher and a storefront at the same time. It's a little unusual. But the thing that makes that hard is you're losing a market segment, because I will just not go buy a digital book. I will just not read new comics for a while. Like, that's not a big hardship for me. That's not a big deal. You know how many books I have that I haven't read yet? More than I'd like to admit. Now you're thinking, well, what about Amazon? Like, Amazon could be our new distributor, right? Well, what if Amazon fails? Like, let's come back in here. Let's just kind of draw another picture. So we've got ink, paper, our manufacturing center. Everything kind of comes down here. Go to the printer. Pretend you can read my handwriting, and then we get to great. Well, what if Amazon fails? Whatever comes after here, whether it's stores or whether it's customers, if you don't have Amazon, you're not getting that stuff to them anyway. A single point of failure is always bad. It doesn't matter where it occurs in this chain. If you only have one of something, it's bad. Now, I was kind of thinking, how can Diamond not have money? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to look at Comicron, and I'm going to see what it says, sales to shops. All right. Now, I'm assuming sales to shops means, and this may be a bad assumption. Oh, and I forgot to flip over. I'm sorry. And this may be a bad assumption. Can I zoom in just a little bit? There we go. This is how much revenue the industry brought in physical goods. Now, this isn't talking about some of the other stuff that Amazon sells, like statuettes and all that, but 529.6 million. Now, publishers get like roughly a quarter of the price. Every step you go down the chain, you double your price. So the publisher sells the book for $1, the store or Diamond sells it to the store for $2, the store sells it to you for $4. That's generally how that kind of thing works. So that means that out of this, Diamond had sales of about 260 million, give or take, and about 130 of that was just gross, like not their gross revenues, but like their it's not their net profit, because we're not taking all the other expenses. I guess we'd like the gross profit, the direct. Hey, we did this. It cost this much to sell that to you. We made this much money from it. So they're getting $130 million. That's a pretty good chunk of operating revenue to run your business off of. Now they've got like properties, they've got employees. $100 million is going to go pretty darn quick. But it kind of blows my mind that Diamond was running on such slim margins that they couldn't absorb, operating costs for 6 months or something. Like, that's kind of how I read that news article, is it's saying we can't afford to operate during this time. So we're not going to pay you the money that you are owed, because otherwise we won't have any money. And that is a bad place for any business. It's a very fragile monopoly. Frankly, if it wasn't for DC and Marvel having like their exclusive agreements with Diamond, a competitor might have started up. I don't know that the market is big enough with only $100 million to really support two separate distribution chains, because there's not. In comic books, you have... let's flip back over here. You have very limited distribution. So you've got printer. You can send stuff to pubs or to Diamond. So now the pubs and Diamond can do stores. And this is all Diamond does. They sell to stores. Pubs can do that. Some publishers will do that. Alternative Comics, for example, does. Publishers can also sell directly to customers. And a lot of publishers will do that. You go to their website, Aspen, Alternative Comics, Scout Comics, Archie. They'll all sell you stuff like this. So now you've got 2 points of failure, but not every publisher wants to set up their own distribution chain. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of overhead. That's why you have Diamond. So they wanted to just send books from the printer right to Diamond and have Diamond handle all the boring warehousing stuff, because who wants to have 10,000 comic books sitting in a storage unit, right? Nobody does. That's a lot of space. That's an ongoing monthly expense. That's a lot of trouble, because now you've got to pack them yourself. You got to hire people to pack them. You got to have somebody there to receive the books when they're delivered. it becomes a big problem. That's why distributors exist. They specialize in handling those logistical problems. So is there enough room in this inventory or in this industry for another distributor? I don't know. But I think we're about to find out, because if Diamond is in such dire straits that they can't afford to pay these people who have sent their products to Diamond, then Diamond is in a bad way. We're all in a bad way right now, but that's bad because that kills the whole industry. There will be untold chaos. A lot of these right here, these people in this store bucket, they're going to go out of business because small businesses tend to be even more highly leveraged with their capital expenses than Diamond is. Like, Diamond's probably got money tied up in investments that they can probably like deleverage, get some money back out of. A little store, it was like a single store, like some of the places I went to when I was on a business trip, like, what was that, February, early March, something like that. Some of those places, they probably can't survive 1 month without sales. Like, they need that operating income because they're running on pretty slim margins. You know, they're maybe getting that 50% markup, but 50% markup doesn't save you because you have to pay rent, you have to pay employees, you have to pay utilities, you got to pay insurance. It's the same problems Diamond has. It's just being all pushed onto a much smaller entity that can't afford that kind of stuff. So if Diamond goes down, I don't think there's a question mark to replace it yet. And if there's not a question mark to replace it, I don't know what happens to all these people, much less these people. Like, I will be unhappy if I can't purchase comic books, but I will live. In fact, that will be a good thing for me because it will save me money. But stores? Some guy who opened a store, so, it was his dream. We may be watching his dream crash, and I take no joy in that. I find no mirth in it. I find no humor in it. And the people who are laughing it up about this or feeling like smugly superior about it, man, please stop. Please stop for all of us. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me as I kind of ranted and rambled about this. It's just bad news. If Diamond is not sending money, that means Diamond is in a bad way. And if Diamond is in that bad of a shape, we're all in the comic book industry in that bad of a shape. Take care of yourselves. Have a great day. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.